Oh, new Premier League season, same old Chelsea. All right, welcome back, everyone. American Blues Podcast. How good does it feel for the Premier League to be back on again? Even though it's a disappointing first game, I don't think it's time to panic. We were not expected to win this game. We're at home, but honestly, there's just such a wide gap between our team has so many new players, brand new manager. We clearly need time, and City is just going to be City. Even without Rodri, doesn't matter. They're still going to be City. And with Haaland being so clinical up front, you knew you just had to take your chances, and we didn't. But let's talk about the very start of the game, which is the starting lineup. I like the starting lineup, except for Sanchez in goal. But to be fair, he wasn't that bad today. He didn't make any egregious errors. Could he have done better on the second goal? Maybe, but I actually blame the midfield and defense a lot more than him at that point. Starting lineup, it was mainly Cucurella, maybe inverting, playing on the right side, with Gusto holding the width on the right, with Palmer playing as the right side at 8, and then Nkunku being the left wing, and then Enzo playing high up. Now, I think it makes sense to start with this team because we are generally playing our strongest players and not just that, our most expensive players. With how do you fit Lavia, Caicedo, and Enzo all into the same team with Palmer? And the solution was to just not play any wingers, which is a little bit strange given that Maresca has clearly shown that he likes to play with true wingers like Sterling or Madueke, but Sterling didn't even make the bench today, which I think is a big sign. But we'll get to that later. I don't think we were that bad today. I think what I got out of the game today was that he wanted to play Lavia and Caicedo because City have so many runners that we needed two defensive-minded midfielders, which is fine because Enzo's he's not very good in that role. He doesn't track back, he doesn't track runners very well. So I think defensively we were okay apart from the two goals. The first goal just kind of fell asleep. I think it was mainly Colwell's fault for falling asleep on Haaland, made a really weak challenge, and then Cucurella was just never going to win that challenge against Haaland when he's on the wrong side of the ball. But, this is the huge difference between having someone like Haaland, one of the most clinical strikers on the planet, versus Jackson. Not clinical. Haaland will make a goal out of absolutely nothing. And that's what he did. He had two defenders and a goalie to beat, and he did it, and he made it look easy. So good on him. That's just kind of striker he is. But I actually think, apart from that, we kept him pretty quiet, and it was not too bad. Another big concern of mine is on defensive set pieces. I don't know why Enzo is the one marking Haaland. That makes no sense whatsoever. I understand. We don't have our tallest players, with Bareshil not being on, and Ugochukwu going out on loan, and Vega wasn't on the field in the beginning for majority of the match. But still, why is Enzo the one that's marking him? That made no sense. So I did not like seeing that. I don't think that's going to work. Please don't put Enzo on their best header. That will never work. It should have been Colwell or Fofana today. But I think the main problem today that I saw was we just didn't really use our wing. I like that Palmer wasn't asked to hold the touchline. I don't think that's where he's the best at. And Gusto is good at going forward, but Gusto is not a one-on-one winger like Madueke is. And I think we sorely missed that on that right side. They just, Palmer and Gusto just didn't combine all that well. And then on the other side, Nkunku is just not really a left winger either. I think he would have been much better playing in Enzo's position. And I think the big thing that I took away from the first half is that I think we're going to really struggle forcing Enzo to be on this team. And I think that's kind of ridiculous to say given how talented he is. But the problem is when he plays as a 6, he has a vision to pass forward and he has a vision to control games, but he's not defensively minded. And we need someone in the 6 to help out with defense like Lavia and Caicedo. But then when he plays a little further up in the field like the 8, Enzo doesn't really have a shot on him. He's not clinical either. And you saw today in the first half, he had 2 really good passes put out to him. I think it was one of was Palmer. I forgot who did the other one. And both times, his first touch was so bad that instead of actually getting either a foul or penalty call, I think rightly so, they just weren't called because he had no control on the ball. That's his thing. This should be your thing, is a good first touch because you're supposed to be one of our technically most gifted players. But yeah, I think he was really disappointing in the first half. And I think second half, the first big mistake that I saw was putting on Neto for Nkunku and keeping Enzo on the pitch. I think Enzo should have come off given how poorly he was performing in the first half. Move Nkunku into his best position, which is in that 8, right behind the striker, and have Pedro be that winger that we really, really needed. So I didn't really agree with that change. I think Neto, first game on, he needs more time with the team. I didn't think he was all that good, and I don't think he was all that bad. I think he needs more time. And then the next sub, which I found confusing, was Lavia came off, which I thought he was having a far better game than Caicedo. I think Caicedo just needs time again, kind of like last season where he kept making errors, was just a little bit slow to the ball in the first half of the season. I think he just needs time to catch up to pace with the team. And I think Lavia was the one that really looked up to it. He was taking good touches in midfield. He was always turning, looking forward, and he was tracking back and helping on defense. So that was also a little bit of a strange subs. And again, Kieran Dewsbury Hall came on for Lavia instead of Enzo, where Dewsbury Hall's best position is where Enzo was sitting today. So yeah, so a couple of odd changes with the tactics and with the substitutions. But what I did like to see is that Maresca is not afraid to make changes early because things just weren't working. Jackson, again, same old Jackson from last season. Really good in the middle of the field, link up, incredible. Final third, not that good. The one chance we had to tie it up, he was the one player that stayed offside. He was a little bit lazy, a little bit slow to get onside. And that's just a problem, right? Like he's just not, I don't know what to say about him apart from just be a better striker, just please. Like the rest of your game is so good. Just have that motivation in the final third to just say, I want this goal, like Haaland does. But I don't know if we're ever going to get that out of Jackson, to be honest. Some players have it and some players don't. So one can hope. And then the second goal, man, that one was embarrassing to give away. I think it was first Caicedo, weak challenge on Kovacic. And then Enzo might as well not even been there. He barely tried. And then Colwell just kind of sat back and watched him take a shot. So I understand it's the end of the game. Everybody's tired, but still, we were at home. It was still only 1-0. The last thing we want to do is to give up that game-killing goal, especially to someone who can run with the ball well, like Kovacic. So that's disappointing to see. Like, again, these things can be worked on the training ground, right? Like, this comes from the manager of motivating the players, telling them, hey, no matter what, you cannot turn off. So hopefully, with time, mistakes like that will get better. But I do think that the team still looks better this game than we did in preseason. Like every game, I do see the positives. I see a little bit better in defense. I see a little bit better in tracking back. And I see a little bit better in terms of attacking play. We just need time for these things to click. So I think it's too early to panic. Nobody expected us to beat City. But the next game, we do have to try to win, for sure. It's a lot of pressure, but we do need to win the next game. We cannot start off the season with 2 losses. That would just be really bad. And we're just piling pressure on ourselves. That's not needed. But I think we're allowed this loss as long as the team is looking better collectively. And Maresca is kind of learning like what works, what doesn't work. I think that's fine. But I do think that we should go back to what works, which is that we need our wingers. We need our wingers to play as wingers. Oh, and let's talk about Sterling. I think it's very telling that one of the biggest games and biggest opener of the season, Sterling wasn't even on the bench. I think it's very clear that the club is trying to get rid of all of our highest earning players who don't contribute that much to the team or proportionally to their wages. And Sterling, I would say, is at the top of that list in terms of he's getting paid the most, but he's contributing like mild to moderate amounts. So with the signing of Pedro Neto, I think it's pretty clear that this is a sign that Sterling needs to go, same as Chilwell, and that's another sad thing. I love Ben Chilwell, but there's too many things that are against him. He doesn't fit into this system. He's so injury prone, and he's, again, one of the highest earning players. Now, how we're going to get rid of a player like that and find a team that's willing to pay him a transfer fee and his wages, I have no clue. But this is the problem with having high wage earning players, which is why I get it. From a club and business standpoint, it makes sense to get rid of the high earning players who don't contribute. But That's easier said than done. So we'll see what happens with the whole Chilwell and Sterling situation. There's still plenty of time left in the transfer window. And again, up front, what we need is a clinical striker. As of right now, I still like Jackson starting. I think he's great in build-up. He did score, 15 Premier League goals last season. That's not something to scoff at. But if he continues to show what he keeps showing in the final third of just being kind of lazy, kind of bad with his feet, not clinical, then I do think it's time that we need someone like Osimhen, or we need to start looking into Guiu starting more. Plenty of time to make those decisions. It'll be a very exciting end to the transfer window. Again, I think it's too early to panic. We're not expected to win this first game, but that next game we must win to start building on some points and make it a better season than last year. So, and really for Maresca to not feel the pressure, because the whole press is going to be against them if we lose 2 games in a row. So lots to look forward to. See you guys after the next game. Peace.